Hey, Don't Die Rusty Nation. This is Rick Hansen, your host, and I'm here with Ricky Bruley, and we're just catching up a little bit about our next episode with the Don't Die Rusty podcast.
Yeah, man. How's it going?
Well, I am beat up. I am in a different place right now, but no, I'm good. It's good. Just a little tired and ready to talk about Wild Mountain Mandan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a fun episode too. It was a pretty wild ride as we went along too. Like some of the behind the scenes stuff. He was trying to. He had this big old setup,
Yep.
and he was going to show off all these things, but he lives off the grid, right? So he doesn't have good service, and so I actually was going to be chiming in a little later, and I did. And I was able to get in a little bit earlier than I thought I would. But even then, he was still scrambling. They were trying to get service and get everything figured out, and then they had to drive like 30 minutes or something like that to a
Yeah.
different location. So yeah, it was kind of a wild ride there in the beginning, but I was happy that I was able to be a part of the entire conversation.
Me too, and it was cool though. That it's cool that most people would want to maybe give up at that time, and it's cool that we have friends that will talk to us and go 30 minutes away
Yeah.
and have a conversation with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was great conversation, like we always have with Dana,
Yeah.
because first of all, he has such a good heart, and he wants to just help the world. It seems like.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he's at this age where, because he made mention of it, and I think he's in his late 80s, right? Didn't he say he was almost 90?
No, he said he wanted to do that till he was 90.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, when he said that, I was like, well, hot dang, I want to be like that when I'm almost 90.
No, no, he wanted to keep doing what he was doing until he was 90.
Well, I'm sure he's going to
So,
listen to this, so sorry about that, Dana. But either way,
yeah. But no, the energy and the love and all the kinds of information that he can give the world is just amazing.
hmm yeah, absolutely. He is very bright and very excited,
Yep.
and it's just a blast having a conversation with him. And I'm excited to actually meet him in person someday. I'm sure we will.
Someday we will. So
hmm
everybody enjoy the next episode of the Don't Die Rusty podcast with Wild Mountain Man Dan. Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hansen, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all in this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure and life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Well, hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. We are here tonight with myself, Rick Hansen, and co host Ricky Bruley. And we are lucky enough to have one of our first guests here, Wild Mountain Man Dan, professional hugger and making the world better every day of the year person. You are awesome. And you know what? You have the energy of a 10-year-old, and I wish I could have just a little bit of your energy.
I've been
And
doing it for 60 years.
Carry the two.
we were talking earlier, Ricky and I, it's lucky for the people that we get to talk to because you become friends, and I follow you through social media, and we message each other here and there, and know that each other's alive and kicking. The good thing about this is, like I said, we were talking earlier, is you make me better because you give me energy. You give us something to think about, and you give the world a smile and a hug, and you have some interesting words to say to get me thinking about being the best me.
I think I've said it before, but I don't want to change your oil. I just want to change the whole world for the positive. It's true. I do.
Yeah.
My life, I spend, contemplating what can I do? What can I put in my calendar this week that's going to make me a better person, but make everybody I meet happier and livelier. I don't know if they're going to get wild like me, but baby step at a time is the plan.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know that. Here's how I feel. If we're talking about cars, we'll say, since you have a nice Corvette, we just posted on our Instagram page. But here's what Rick wants to do when
that's my car.
There you go.
a little red Corvette. There we go.
I love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
But if we're a car, but I don't want to be stuck out in the pasture and die rusty. I want to be like Thelma and Louise when I go out and go over that cliff. I want to have a wreck. If we're gonna do this, I'm gonna blow up the engine and we're gonna have a wreck. There's not gonna be any parts left.
I heard one time, if you shoot for the sun and you hit the moon, that's okay. Like a second goal out there. I want to live till I'm 150 years old, and I have a great start on it in my head and in my mind and my body. I do. I feel like, I don't know if I feel like I'm 10, but I feel like I'm 18, just a little more knowledgeable and more reserved and more wild than most 18-year-olds.
You are more wild than 18-year-olds.
Management, though. My wife, she says, be wild, but, tone it down sometimes.
There's a place and a time, right?
And I have to say, I love that Don't Die Rusty shirt you have on. That is amazing.
Yep. I got it from some really neat people. Wear it.
Yeah, thanks for wearing that.
Yeah. So, I've been a hugger since I was a little guy. My parents, it's funny, when growing up, they never said, I love you, but we knew it. We knew it so much that all of their friends would come over, and my dad was a chef in a restaurant. We went camping with the dishwashers. And so when I turned to be a teenager, I learned a little bit more about life, and then I met some people that they hugged everybody. It didn't matter who it was. They just hugged everybody. And it's way before COVID happened, and maybe that changed things a little bit. But I love the feeling of, I don't know, that really deep communication has to do with, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and even that body language, but even just the warmth of a big hug. And there's different kinds of hugs and stuff, but I just go all at it. And sometimes I have to say things like a little reserve, like, would you like a hug? Or I'm a hugger. Would you mind if I get a hug? So you got to kind of ask permission, kind of feel it out a little bit. But yeah, 95% of the people are all in for it. They haven't had a big hug in a long time. That's sad.
Well, that's awesome. And, because, we hug. A lot of most of all of our friends hug each other, and that's just what it's about. You have to be comfortable in your own skin.
That's right. Yeah. And it's kind of a visual feely thing where they almost instantly know your character, your honesty, your, putting the right foot forward and making a statement by, I love you. I'm not perfect, but yeah, it just feels good when you do a good job. Not too long, there's an appropriate
Yeah.
That's
definitely
an icebreaker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what have you been up to, Dan, since the last time we talked to you? You are a busy, busy fella. You make me tired.
So the weather was pretty good a few weeks ago, so I started painting my house, which is quite an ordeal,
Yeah.
and ripping off a few boards and fixing a few things and getting really deep into that and staining the porch. But I had a fellow going to come up and do an off-grid magazine article on me, and so
Oh.
I'm getting all of this ready. I have major big gardens I've planted just this last week. I pruned my fruit trees. I was on 3 radio shows recently about a book I'm writing. I've been to a gathering. Those are my family things I do with my worldwide friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Those are so good. I got to spend quality time with some most inspirational good teachers. And I have quality time with my wife, and I have also another gal that's my best friend, and she's really special. And then I have my 25 grandkids and 8 kids. I'm pretty busy.
I guess you are.
Go on, but
Tell us a little bit about that book that you're writing.
well, so there was a fellow that lived about 120 years ago out where I'm at, near Matlock, Aberdeen area, Washington State, and he grew up as a little boy, but their family immigrated from Germany, and they didn't really know a lot. They moved up to the mountains at a homestead, and come to find out recently, his neighbors were a small Indian tribe, and he just loved going over there, we feel. There's not a lot of written records on it because the fellow turned into kind of a hermit when a lot of things happened in his life that weren't bad. That weren't good. Anyway, his nephews died, and everybody blamed the wild, crazy man in the mountains for doing it. But in a lot of ways, that was his favorite sister, and that was her only twin sons. And when they died, the crazy man did it, and they immediately, this is 120 years ago, they put up a reward, $5,000, dead or alive, kill him on sight with no trail, no interview. The crazy man must have did it. Let's go kill him. Even to the point of sending letters out to other sheriff's office asking if they can get a pack of man-eating dogs just to let go on the guy and destroy him.
Whoa.
So, the problems is that there's no evidence that he hurt or killed anybody. There is evidence that he never drank and smoked. He was a logger, and a guy that's in the mountains all the time, learning to shoot well. He was the best marksman. But anyway, the saddest part about it is he might have killed no one, but all the newspapers went wild. They had all these hundreds of newspaper articles across the country saying, the manic murderer and the gorilla man and the ape man, and because he looked pretty wild, but he basically just loved the wilds. And one of his last statements we have is that a sheriff did catch up with him, and he said, "I love the wilderness, and there's food everywhere." And and then they went and killed him. So we're writing a book. There's a lot of stories about different things, but we want to try to set the truth of most correct information we can find, because most people nowadays, they just hear stories from their grandfathers, and a lot of it gets kind of jumbled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's a big push. I've been writing on it for probably 5 years.
And you're co-authoring that book, correct? You're co-authoring that book with a friend.
With a gal named Tracy Travers, who's a real estate agent in Montesano area. She's a go-getter. Oh man, it's almost scary because she'll stay up all night long going through the internet. There is another book or two written on the subject before internet happened, and they're really great. But now that internet's happened, we can just type in something that's interesting, and hundreds of original newspaper articles come up, and original photos. We got newspaper articles from New York and Australia, British Columbia, Salt Lake, California, and we're kind of thinking it was one of the largest stories across the whole country. 1 year after the Titanic sunk in 1913, it sunk in 1912.
Huh.
Yeah, that's just another part of my life that I work on almost every week, besides at this moment in my life, I go to a gathering somewhere across the West, and then I come home for a week, and I go to another gathering and teach, and then I come home, and that happens maybe 6 or 7 times a year.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, but I try to have a lot of what's called excellence in my life, which is quite a little bit under perfection, but I love the word excellence. It's
Yeah.
good. It's good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I look forward to reading through the book when you get that finished, and hopefully one of these days we can join you on for one of those gatherings, because I see the content you put out there, those gatherings, and they just looks like a good time. It looks like a lot of great like-minded individuals, and it seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
So I want to talk about friendship and the value of people, and I spoke a little bit earlier to you.
Yep.
Like if you have a ring, a very beautiful ring, say it's a diamond ring, and it means something to you. It's a wedding ring or some kind of ring, but then you lose it, right? I would like to think about that as a person, and the value of this person, and has that value lost? If you lose a diamond ring, did the value go away? Did the value diminish? Is it the same value? And then when you find the diamond ring again, say it's a year later, or somebody finds it and gives it to you, it's like renewing old friendships, or maybe communicate with somebody that you maybe there was a problem at some time and a disagreement, but did the value ever really go away, or was the value there the whole time? And you just, now you're much happier because you got to, reunite with the ring or a person. That's a very important lesson for people to know. And yeah, there's people in my life that I wished I could see again, or my father, and let him know how I feel and what's going on in my life,
Mm-hmm.
But I'll see him again. I have a pretty, I don't know. Sometimes I don't look like it, but I'm fairly religious, but I'm also wild and, like a Clark Kent Superman, I think. Too.
Yeah.
But that's better than crazy, or better than dangerous. I used to be Dangerous Dan the Mountain Man, but I changed that into wild.
Well, I love that thought, because I don't think
Mm-hmm.
people think about that. Like, yes, the diamond has value when it's in a store, and then when you put it on your hand in a ring or whatever. But if you lost it, it has never lost its value. You just
Yeah, it
lost the
never.
ring.
Yeah, it's still there.
But
Even though it's there forever. Like gold, diamonds, they literally last forever. So the value, maybe in another lifetime, that will be as valuable or more valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was a teacher for 20 years. I don't know, I taught culinary arts and restaurants. My father was a big time chef, and he was the president of the Washington State Chefs Association. And I wanted to bring up another point about people that's, I think, also important. Like we were talking about, maybe something went wrong or you lost some friends. But when I received my Washington State Teacher of the Year award, they called me up on stage, and I immediately started talking about a guy on the beach. And he was picking up a starfish and throwing it back in the water, feeling that, if these, under this bright sun, are these starfish going to all die? Maybe they're going to hydrate and stuff. And he's picking up one and throwing it, and picking up another starfish and throwing it. But there's thousands of starfish on this beach. And another guy comes up and he goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm going to save this starfish." And he's throwing it in and picking up another. "I'm going to save this starfish. They're going to die." And the guy says, the important part, he says, "You're never going to save all those starfish. It's just impossible." And he says, "Yeah, but I'm going to save this one, and I'm going to save this one, and I'm going to save this one." Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful outlook, one starfish at a time is about the only thing you'll ever do that's quality.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is, saving one at a time.
Yeah, I love that story.
Yeah, it's about it's kind of what we're trying to do too.
Mhm.
Don't die rusty, because we're trying to help. It doesn't matter if it's we aren't trying to save the world, but we're trying to say, you know what, bring inspiration or bring thoughts to people, one story at a time, and so it's like one starfish at a time. And
Yeah. It all
you
starts with me, or it all starts with you. That's the best place to go.
Mhm.
well, it does start with you because you're on here, and what yeah, because if you say something like that and somebody catches it like boom, then it's that little thing that can change their lives, which can change somebody else's life, because you can save that one starfish, and that other starfish can save another starfish, and
Absolutely.
then it
Yeah.
keeps just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we start changing this world.
Mhm.
I wanted to say something about this last week too. I'm not going to say that some people are more important than others. I'm going to say that I have some of my friends that are so special, that are, they're everything. They inspire me to be good. And I just love hanging out with them. And yeah, I got to have a whole week with some pretty neat people. And some of them were from the Alone Show, some of my good friends. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Or it's not something about people they don't they don't care what you know. They just want to know that you care. Um, in my earlier years, I had lots of heroes. Like Roy Rogers, the Lone Ranger, Superman. That were the days. And I
Mhm.
think, oh my goodness, I wished I could, go back to some of those days because of that way of looking at life. All the kids, that's what we did. We didn't have confusing heroes, or maybe they're not even heroes anymore. But I wish the youth had more heroes like I had, because yeah, maybe that was the leave it to Beaver days, and
Andy
we're
Griffith.
never wrong, and the government was great, and all this wonderful stuff. But I learned a lot from those days. That was my youth. I went out and tried to be like a native type of attitude, where I'm gonna go out and learn about the trees and make little shelters and try to make arrowheads. Yeah, that was like I was 7 years old, and I love that part of my life.
You just brought up, I've had this discussion, and I said, I don't want superheroes to have that dark side. Why can't we have people that are just good
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
do the right thing? We don't have to have a dark side that we have to wonder if they good or bad. I like to have, like you said, the old Superman, the old,
and the
you know,
cowboys wore white hats. I mean, it was very easy to see the very positive things in life and the value. Uh, Yeah, it was very clear back then.
because
Yeah,
when we lose the clearness, when we lose it's a question. We shouldn't have to question good or bad. We should just know that it's good or bad.
yeah, and it should feel right. Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways, in a big spectrum, from all different angles.
I,
Yeah, trust
I
your instincts. Another thing about that is, like, I love the word inspiration, and I love, instincts, or, those kind of things. And when you trust your instincts, and you react or you do something for good, you're going to get more good out of it.
mhm.
You're going to recognize good, and you're going to be able to follow good even stronger. And then all of a sudden, a whole world of things are going to open up to you. I got to talk to you about my Corvette.
Mhm.
Oh, I've always had a sports car, but I've never had a Corvette. I always wanted a Corvette, but I couldn't afford a Corvette. I'm probably the richest man in the world that doesn't have any money. Yeah. But I went to a Native American Sundance ceremony, and there was an elderly Native there, and we hit it off so good. And I was going to show him how to make arrowheads, and we talked about so much stuff. And at the third day of being there, he says, I got 3 Corvettes. You want one?
Oh wow.
That's about how it happened.
Holy moly.
And the reason that happened is, when you make friends and people get to be older, they want to pass on something in their life, or they want you to tell their story, like even in somebody's deathbed, if you could hear their story, I think they can pass away even a little easier by you hearing their story. Anyway, so I bought the Corvette, but for a very good price, and it's pretty special now. Pretty car.
Yeah. That's really cool. What year is that car?
So they made different kinds of Corvettes, and they call them a series. So if you have a C1, it's like 54, 55, 57, 58. And then there's a C2 and a C3. And the C3s, a lot of times, are known as Stingrays.
Mm-hmm.
It's an 81, but they stopped calling them Stingrays, but they look just like the Corvettes before that were called Stingrays. So anyway, so I got this because it says it's the 81 body style, but it says Corvette Stingray, and Corvette, some people get upset at it. Corvette.
I love it.
Yeah, I thought it was probably
82s weren't called Stingrays because it didn't say Stingray on the body.
Ah.
Okay. Got the mini version there.
I'd love to talk about my home, my little cabin on the creek, and how free I am. Actually, I'm pretty expensive, but I don't pay for electricity. 5 acres with a stream, lots of gardens. I have 60 fruit trees. I have a root cellar that I spent 5.5 years on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, everything's paid for.
That's the best part, isn't it?
What's that?
That's the best part, isn't it? Everything's paid for.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And I got a teacher's retirement, Social Security coming in, and every couple of weeks I just say, "Ooh, what am I going to do with this money?" It's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
And I have limits, and I have boundaries, and I have budgets, but yeah, I still get to go and do kind of whatever I want to do, and yeah, but the sacrifice to get there was being a dishwasher for a lot of years, and then being a cook's helper for a lot of years, and saying yes ma'am, yes sir for a lot of years, and just working so hard. I even worked for people that sorry to say that there were some people that only worked there for one day because it was so hard, but I thought if I could just stick it out, if I can just rise above that, I'll be a better person. And yeah. Anyway, I love my land. And here's another crazy thing. If I could pick in the whole universe where I'd want to live, I think I'd pick the Earth. And then I think I would pick the Olympic Peninsula. And then I think I would pick up in the northern kind of the Olympic, peninsula, and where there's a lot of rain and creeks and streams and, plant fruit trees. So I live right exactly where I want to live, and I do what I want to do. And it's a wonderful feeling. I hope everybody can make that happen. I really don't know much about apartment life. I've never done that.
So it's very inspiring. It really is. Like that's a dream of mine too.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from doing the dishes and doing that stuff? You said some people would quit in one day, and you hung on and kept on doing it and washing your dishes.
There's a thing called faith. Faith, faith, right? And there's another one called fate, where it's going to happen somewhere in that circle. I just had a positive attitude, and I worked hard, and I was patient. And, one thing builds into another thing, and builds into another thing. And then you hear something, and then you investigate, and you say, oh, I like that. One of the things I also believe is if you're going down a trail in your life, and you kind of know, I want to go that way, but there's a fork in the road, right? Which way do you go? Do you go this way or this way? I think every direction is good, at least so you can recognize, oh, I'm off the path a little bit. I need to go back. I need to go
Mm-hmm.
back to where my center focus is. So having a focus, and having a lot of patience and hard work. I guess those are the big things. And I was just, I guess, lucky enough to find my 5 acres for $10,000. The house had just burnt down. Well, it was a few years ago, but maybe you don't see that. But my son bought a piece of property with a creek 2 years ago for 30,000, and a year later he sold it for 100,000. So maybe those things are out there somewhere, but I'm fine where I'm at.
Well,
Yeah.
are
Go
you
ahead.
are you you're content and happy? You aren't. What I'm trying to, I don't know the word I'm trying to say, but I mean that at peace. That might be the best word at where you're living. Like
Yeah.
when you find that one
Built my
place
own
that gives
garden.
you peace. Pardon me?
I actually built my own Garden of Eden.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably, for me, it would give me peace that I built this Garden of Eden,
Yeah.
and I did it on my own.
And you gain the knowledge to do it again, or you gain the knowledge to do it better next time. That's
Mm-hmm.
I still gotta go back and build a better bathroom. Well, that probably never stops. But originally, sounds kind of funny, but it was, we had 6 or 8 little kids, and it was dark out, and they had to go to the restroom, but they had to sing the song "Over the River and Through the Woods to the Outhouse We Go." That was a hard life, And
So upgrading, was that a 2-holer then, or just the 1-holer?
well, we had an upstairs and a downstairs. Oh, just kidding.
Somebody would have a crappy day then, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully the upstairs didn't flow into the downstairs.
Yeah. Standing outside one time, somebody was inside, and they were going, "Oh no! Oh no! No! No!" And what's wrong? And the guy picks out a $5 bill and throws it down the hole, and he's going, "I can't believe it!" And I'm going, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he picks out a $20 bill and he throws it down the hole, and finally he says, "I'm not gonna go in there for a quarter." Figured it out. Funny story. Hey, if anybody wants to follow me, they can do, Facebook Dana Anderson, or they could do Wild Mountain Man Dan on Instagram, and they'll probably, they'll have every emotion in the world if they see 4 or 5 in a row. They'll be rolling on the ground, and sometimes I'm serious and beautiful music, and sometimes I'm just flying through the air and crashing into bushes and jumping off.
Well, I was going to bring that up because that was the last one I saw. You were running, and I thought, oh my gosh, he fell into the bush.
Hugging cactuses.
Happens is that there was a gal at the gathering, and she goes, "Aren't you Wild Mountain Man Dan?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "I love it when you dive into the bushes." And I go, "Come on, let's go. You're the photographer." When that happened, I go, "Okay, get ready. Here we go." Boom. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely everybody needs to go follow his page. You'll certainly be entertained without a doubt, and
You'll be
uplifted. If you're having a bad day, it's a good place to go.
It's exactly what I was going to say too, and you can go to the show notes too. We'll have his Instagram and Facebook pages in there too in our show notes here later when we this episode comes out. So, but you do need to go watch, because there are days I try to be uplifted. I mean, I try to be uplifting myself, and there are days, and you could call it faith or you can call it fate, but all of a sudden here comes a post of Wild Mountain Man Dan, and I get a smile on my face, like somebody knew that I needed that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you get that from Rick's page too, oftentimes, and that's when we did the first episode. That's what we talked a little bit about that, how I felt like Wild Mountain Man Dan is Rick about, 20 years from now.
What?
With
20 years? I'll be 90 years old. Can you believe it? I can't even believe that. Yeah. Ooh, I'm 90. Woo!
there we go.
Hey,
But the one thing though is you have more hair than I do, so
yeah. Blondes have more fun, something like that. Either that or yeah, but I wanted to show some of these skills.
Yeah.
I was gone for a month last year about this time, and I was on an Aboriginal trek with 15 people, and we couldn't bring anything that was glass or plastic. We had to make everything from scratch, and so this is a salmon skin tanned with bark of a tree, and coyote tanned with brains, and then these are sticks, but they're Osage orange, and they're also ocean spray and turkey feathers and sinew. But you had to harvest everything, and then make arrowheads. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so this whole trek we did was pretty much, we didn't have sleeping bags, and we didn't have shelters, and we didn't have tents. You had to make everything from scratch. So I just wanted to mention how beautiful that trip was.
Is that trip on anywhere you watched it, or did you that we can watch your trip, or was it filmed at
It
all?
was partially filmed, and so there's a gal by the name of Lynx, like Canadian Bobcat Lynx.
Yeah.
And she does a lot of Aboriginal outings. But anyway, it's one of the best times I've had in years, in that we kind of relied on our own skills, and it was a kind of a hand-picked group to go out into the wilderness and do these things. And I was a flint knapper and carver and stuff, and we had people that were experts in weaving and fire making. By the time we ended it, we're experts in everything. But I just wanted to say, in my life, that's probably the slowest paced I've ever been. Really happy, but like the sun would let us know when to get up, and the sun would let us know about what time the dinner was, and the sun would let us know about the time to start winding down, make sure the fire's going good, and yeah, that was probably the finest time of my life, and it was the quietest and the most peaceful, even more peaceful than now, without all electronics and phones and cars and blacktop. And so, yeah, different aspects of my life were the best, but that was probably the highest level of who I wanted to be, is, more content and quiet in some ways too. So
Well,
How many days were you on that trek?
about a month. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. I shot a chipmunk and ate it, a snake and ate it. I ate grubs. We harvested dandelions and stinging nettles, and there were no berries. There wasn't a lot of meat. We brought some jerky along with us and some wild rice that we picked. I lost 20 pounds.
20 pounds. Wow.
Holy
In a
moly!
month,
Yeah.
But
It is, though.
but there's a great insight into, like, you're gonna get some food and you're gonna eat some food, and you can have breakfast and midnight snacks and everything. We didn't. We had to forage for almost all of our food, and by the end of the day, we had a very small dinner. But we never came up with enough food to actually put it away. Like a real life society, you'd have to eat, but you'd have to also put food away for tomorrow or the winter. Yeah, we never got to that level, and I don't know, mysteriously confounded about, was there more animals? Was there more edibles? Was life even just so much harder then? And I'm sure it was all,
Yeah.
great experience.
So was there a trek? Did you walk from a point to point, or did you just stay in one
Well, we
location?
tried to set it up like a nomadic party, but there was some of us that fell ill, and so I stayed behind, not because I was wimpy. Oh, sorry. But I was going to be there to gather water and firewood for a group that was not doing well. There's 15 of us. So half
there's
the
what?
group as hunters and gatherers, and maybe only out of 15, maybe 4 of us stay behind to tend to the sick and have a base camp. But then I went on lots of, like, a 5-mile trek every day, out discovering things and hunting.
Very cool, but I think inquiring minds are going to want to know, how many chipmunks does it take to make a meal?
Uh, depends on if you're greedy and you share. There was a mouse caught in a Paiute deadfall. I never got none of that. They ate it before I got there. But
I just see a chipmunk as a bite-sized morsel. That's about it.
Yeah.
well, the mouse is smaller.
All right.
Our last Instagram did. I don't know if you saw the mice that me and Joel Vanderloon from the Alone Show did a class, and I was kind of helping him. And we caught 2 mice out of 7 traps, and yeah. It wasn't enough to feed 7 people, but maybe we could catch a rabbit next time or something.
Well, yeah, because that's interesting to think about. I mean, that's kind of like it'd be fun to go to learn about yourself, because you had to learn about yourself while you were out there too.
Oh, yeah. And your management styles and your teaching styles, and these are all brilliant college words, but really when it comes down to it, what do you do with what you got? And what if you don't have nothing? What can you make? Maybe the secret to survival is just having a lot of skills and not having a lot of equipment. What can you actually physically do and make? Can you make fire with sticks? Can you build a shelter? And how do you stay warm and keep your core temperature up? And water. How do you gather water? How do you transport water? How do you transport fire? If you don't have a lighter, once you make fire, and then you're going to leave, can you take it with you? Yeah, you can take fire with you if you do it just right. Keep oxygen away and keep some hot coals and stuff. Yeah, I would recommend everybody look up the ancient skill gatherings. They're great to go to. You learn so much stuff about our past and maybe our future. So,
well, I mean, I know Ricky. You make me interested, because Ricky this is how we got to know you a little bit. But I would love to go to. I'd love to challenge myself, like you were just saying, like drop in there and just have what you have right with you and have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's what these gatherings do, is teach you how to figure it out, correct?
Yeah. And maybe there's 100 instructors and maybe 200 or 300 or 400 students, but every instructor might have a skill, but their knowledge base is so vast. I went to one class by David Holliday, and everybody gathers in, and it was like the opening was, "Hey, what do you got in your pockets? Our airplane just crashed. What do you got with you right now?" And that was the basis of a class. And he put a class together with, "Oh, I got a credit card and I have a fingernail file. Oh, I got this. But we were able to survive hypothetically with whatever they had in their pocket. They have such a huge knowledge base on, a rock just isn't a rock. There's so many different things you could do with a rock and then a stick. But if you have some metal items, can you file that down? Can you chip a piece of glass into an arrowhead? Can you make a bow out of a stick? Can the credit card be the feathers on an arrow? Because it's not going to get you through the wilderness, as you can't eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
speaking of gatherings, we spoke in the last episode about the Pacific Northwest survival games that you
that's coming up.
Of, and I was super excited. In fact, I found a teammate, and it was
what?
Well, it was Dr. Ray Jensen, but unfortunately, when I saw the date, it's my daughter's birthday.
Oh man!
So I won't.
Wow.
make it, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye. I've been communicating with Tony, and we still kind of keep in touch. So we'll be keeping close on that event, when it happens, and just
brilliant, I guess, entrepreneur. He's a Superman when it comes to inspiration on just motivating people. He's a good one, and I really hope this Pacific Northwest Survival Games becomes the thing, because a lot of people are talking about it. It's got all the qualifications of being, the best of the best, better than alone, better than forged in fire, and interaction with, people and skills. Yeah. Oh, well, bring your daughter along.
right.
There you go.
We talked about it. But yeah.
There's going to be at least 4 or 5 people from the Alone Show that are such beautiful friends of mine, and EJ Snyder from Naked and Afraid, and some other really wonderful people that have many skills as teachers. And
yeah,
I was just talking with Tony this morning about books and stuff.
I have a question. Could a stupid person learn? Because if I went, you'd have to have a lot of patience with me.
There's people with every skill. People there that have never been camping before, that had the most wonderful time of their life, learn so much. And then when it kind of comes down, they're trying to get the winner, but everything along the path, there's so much success for every person, the camaraderie, the talking up and the jokes and the great fun. I mean, what would you pay for a memory that was going to last you a lifetime and new friends?
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest Survival Games. Look it up.
Yeah, definitely. And Rick, I think as long as it doesn't have a battery, I think you're probably safe, bud.
That is right.
Well, I enjoyed this moment again. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
It is. Thank you so much for chatting with us, and then moving and getting good service so we could chat with you. Because
the blessings, and I'm not going to say the horrors, but the challenges of living off grid, and you learn so much about what's important and things you need to know. Like, water goes downhill and the heat rises. Can you make a wood stove to heat your hot water that goes through the wood stove? Yeah, you can. My water comes off the mountain with no power and goes through my wood stove and comes out as hot water. That's kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone or arrow.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Well, happy trails.
Well,
same to you.
I want to just say thank you for letting us call you friend.
Yeah.
Thank you. If friends were like flowers, I'd pick you.
Thank you. So we usually ask the last question of what's the good life, but I'm going to ask you instead of that, what's in your future?
Wow. How far is out the future? How far?
Well, we'll go like 6 months to a year.
When I go to these gatherings, or when I go to something where I meet other people, the greatest thought I have is, who am I going to meet that changes my life for good? And it happens all the time. If not every day, maybe once a week or once a month. But I have so many beautiful friends. That's probably the greatest thing in my future, again, is to meet. I'm not being silly or anything about this, but the anticipation of meeting beautiful, warm people is probably number one in my life right now. I don't think that will ever stop. I'm going to have a new stereo in my Corvette probably this summer.
There you go.
Save my sticks and stones. And I love to teach.
What? I mean, I'm trying to get us going, but what kind of music would you listen to in that Corvette?
Okay, so rap music, if you want to look up rap in the dictionary, it starts It starts with a C. Well, if you can look it up, you find it under C. Rap music.
Right.
I think I love everything. Maybe 2 rap songs, but yeah, all the way from Beethoven to country to techno. Elvis Presley and I love so much music as long as it's quality music and it's harmonious and I really don't like a lot of bad words in there. I have these filters. What?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, swear words are the result of a feeble mind to overpower a situation with verbal abuse. But sometimes they're appropriate, but not very often. I said one last year.
One.
I said one last year. Maybe it was 2. But yeah, there's no more than 2. But before that, I don't think I said a bad word for 20 years. Or at least I try not to.
Yep.
Kind of different, but I'm different.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic conviction.
Well, that's a good goal, not to say many words.
Yeah. Yeah. You got anything else, Ricky?
Yeah, no, other than just once again, thanks so much. Always a pleasure, and stay in touch. Thanks for supporting us and wearing the shirt, and yeah, I look forward to the next conversation. And I'm the only thing I'm disappointed about right now is that I still can't get that hug. But we'll do an on-air podcast hug here, and then make it a priority to someday make sure that happens in person.
Well, thank you, and God bless you. You're good.
Yes.
Good friends.
So thank you so much, and we're gonna meet someday.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right. We'll do.
Okay. Bye.
We'll see you.
Yep. Well, Don't Die Rusty Nation, as usual. It's been a fun episode with Wild Mountain Man Dan, and keep chasing your dreams, being the best you, and don't die rusty.
Thank you for listening to the Don't Die Rusty podcast with your hosts Rick Hansen and Ricky Bruley. The Don't Die Rusty podcast is written and produced by Rick Hansen and Ricky Bruley. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Don't Die Rusty. You can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You might find your review read on a future episode. Got a question for the Ricks? Send us an email at don'tdierusty@gmail.com. It too could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Don't Die Rusty podcast wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.